Like, I'm trying to picture a bird driving next to a car.
Driving?
Don't let the pigeon drive the bus, Kira.
Welcome to Baggage Claim, an unofficial Jet Lag the Game companion podcast. Today, we're unpacking episode 3 of season 16, Hide and Seek UK. I'm Jaya.
I'm Casey. And I'm Kira.
Casey, have you ridden on a scooter anytime in the last 10 years?
I have, although I think at this point it was close to 5 or 6 years ago during the pandemic when I was at home for much of the year. I was really rooting around in our garage for any new items, new or old items to bring novelty to my pandemic life. And I found my old skateboard, which I was never really able to ride. But then I also found my old Razor scooter from when I was a kid that was at that point probably up to my knee or maybe my mid-thigh. Absolutely too small for me to ride, but I was like, yes, I'm gonna have a morning of this. And I went out to our street and I scootered back and forth. And then, and I'm not making this up, then I was like, as a kid, it was always agony when you hit your shin with your scooter. But I bet I was exaggerating. Let me just real quick check to see what that's all about.
On purpose?
Yes. And then I immediately fell to the ground. I was like, this is the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. Why would I do this voluntarily? So I'm a big fan of an analog scooter. What I will say, I am far too afraid to get on an electric scooter because people will zip around my neighborhood in DC without helmets. And this is when I turn into my mom. I'm literally
that's just a bad idea.
On a helmet. Do you know
you're simply going to die?
These things are. So I did feel a bit parental when Ben and Adam rode around on those electric scooters because those things can zip around fast.
Those things do zip around. Kira, what about you?
I've really been thinking about it. I don't think I have ridden on a scooter in the last 10 years. I used to be a big scooterer when I was little with my red Razor scooter that Casey and I would perform elaborate scooter dances. It was all about if you could swing your leg up over the handlebars when you were going, so you were balancing on the scooter on one leg. That was peak performance. But I'm pretty sure I haven't ridden a scooter in the past 10 years. But frankly, I would like to. Again, with an analog scooter.
Casey, I think we must have talked about this in 2020, but I have no recollection of it because I also had a 2019 to 2020 at my parents' house scooter renaissance during college. Pulled the Razor scooter out of the garage and was like, I'm gonna go for a ride. Well, let's jump into our recap. It's Sam's first run of the season. The only thing we know about his location initially is that he's in a place that sucks. And maybe I should preface that my family's from a country colonized by the British, so I'm allowed to bully them as much as I want. But knowing that the place sucks really only narrows it down to England. While the Seekers weed-whack their way to the train station, they learn that Sam is further from an international border and not in the same county as them, using this to justify the decision to hop onto an outbound train towards Leeds rather than Manchester. So they head to Leeds and reach it without much difficulty, hitting Sam with a thermometer and a radar and very quickly narrowing down his hiding zone to the dense corner of the map surrounding London. All the while, Sam shows us around his very American suburb little town. While transiting from Leeds to London, Ben gets possessed by a hard-boiled detective investigating Sam for murdering children, and then eats the world's most pickled pearl onion in the first snack zone of the season. Bowdham the traveling detectives asks Sam for a photo of his largest body of water and a custom 150-mile radar, successfully chopping London in half and learning that Sam is north of it. Sam removes all 5-minute bonuses from the deck, and while the detectives are deeply stressed out because they haven't yet been hit by a curse, they collect a Strava map for later and do a thermometer to find out that Sam is in the densities surrounding London, not all the rural stuff over in the east. They ask Sam for a photo of the tallest building and finally get hit by the curse of the bird guide. It turns out that sending Sam off to the largest body of water may have been a mistake, because he found some swans to film for the full 15-minute maximum duration of the curse. And now they have to find a bird that'll stay still for 15 minutes too. Man, I really am regretting not putting any interactions with animals on my bingo board this season. Okay, So the Seekers make it to St. Pancras about 4 hours into Sam's run and only spend a little while filming pigeons until one stays in frame for the full 15 minutes. Sam is devastated at how quick this was, but he still has to send them a photo of the tallest building, crucially forgetting to censor out the fact that there's a Santander bank in this building. He then finally starts planning out his time trap strategy that he drew quite a while earlier, placing it north of his station in Rugby, which is the rugby capital of the UK, yes, and crucially has already been eliminated. But little do the Seekers know that that was on purpose, and Sam has one of the cheekiest plans ever in jet lag. So ignoring the time trap, Ben and Adam sit down in St. Pancras to find every Santander bank in the remaining area, narrowing in on Sam's hiding zone in Milton Keynes. They head straight up towards Sam while he agonizes that he won't be able to execute his plan because he doesn't have enough time bonuses to discard. But after many minutes of just pure and utter anguish, Sam realizes that he can just duplicate his 10-minute bonus and use that to cast the Curse of the Express route, sending the chasers far past his station because they're on the express line already, and straight into his time trap. This was such an insanely good play by Sam that the Seekers are really barely mad about it. Eventually, Sam hides under an overpass and the Seekers make it to Milton Keynes. He curses their feet to become those of gamblers after sending them the funniest street trace ever. So just like in New Zealand, Ben and Adam get on scooters to find him. After scooting directly over Sam, they eventually find him, leaving Sam with a very respectable second place run of 10 hours, 1 minute, and 33 seconds. To conclude our recap, I've come up with a title to highlight the most important moment of the episode. I got stuck on the idea of a hard-boiled detective being combined with a pickled onion, so I would propose Pickled Detective Ben Doyle.
I love that.
That's really funny, Jaya.
The title that I am proposing, pretty self-explanatory based on the recap and the episode, The Epic Highs and Lows of Birdwatching.
Oh, that's great,
That's
Casey.
really appropriate.
That's so true.
I also had a suggestion, which is sort of playing on how Sam clearly says that Milton Keynes is the worst place in England. And also playing on the time trap where Ben and Adam got stuck way past Milton Keynes in a place where they didn't want to be. So I just have a quote from Ben, which is, "I do not want to be here."
That's really appropriate
rules.
for this
That's
episode.
so spot on. Well, with that, Casey, I'll pass it to you for a Strat Chat.
Thanks, Jaya. Welcome back to the Strat Chat, our segment where we break down the strategy and gameplay of the episode. In this episode, we finally see a well-placed time trap, which means it's time for us to trap ourselves in a discussion about the strategy of time traps.
Yay!
So, from both this episode and Ben's round, we see that the Seekers don't really seem too tempted by the time traps. As in, both times, Adam jumps to the conclusion that the hider is trying to hoodwink them. Of course, also both times, this was true. But do you think that there's ever a good strategy to place the time trap near the hiding zone? What do you think about the strategic choice of trickery or truth and the Seekers' kind of psychoanalysis of the hider's decision?
I feel like it's really hard right when the time trap is played for the Seekers to make any kind of big conclusion about it. So what I could see being reasonable for the Seekers is to look at where the time trap is played and then continue seeking as almost as if they didn't get the time trap at all. And only later, I think that it will become clear pretty quickly whether it is played in a totally wrong part of the map, or if it's generally in the right direction, then they still don't need to make any decisions about whether it's meant to throw them off or not, because they're traveling towards it anyway. I think when you get towards the middle game, maybe that's where it starts being more interesting, whether it's trickery or truth. But in that case, I feel like I still wouldn't really be putting too much emphasis on the psychoanalysis. But maybe that's just because I feel like getting it wrong is really risky, and time traps are really difficult to read.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Even if it would be a good idea to put the time trap near you, they're so hard to read that I think as a hider, it would be way too scary for me to put it nearby. I think the best option that I can think of placing the time trap near the hiding zone is in sort of early to mid-game, where, let's say the Seekers have split the map into like two pretty distinct areas, and they think, or it's most likely that the hider is going to be in one of them. So they start heading towards one of them. The hider knows they're heading towards one of them. If the hider is actually in that other weird corner area, then it could be good to put the time trap near them, because they have to go there and the Seekers are actively going away from it, and the Seekers don't think that they need to go there, so they're, I feel like, pretty likely to just read it as a trap.
Yeah.
Or read it as, like, they're being hoodwinked. I don't know. I think putting it nearby would be too scary for me, though.
But I think, Jaya, you bring up a really good point, which is that I feel like the optimal strategy with the time trap is actually really dependent on how the Seekers are playing. First of all, it's definitely dependent on when the time trap is played. Like, I don't think there's really ever a use to play it in the end game, or really even once they know what your station is, unless they're still hours and hours away, I guess. So I would say that the early game and the mid game are the prime times for the time trap. But I feel like you also kind of don't want to play it too early in the game before the Seekers ask many questions. I guess I was kind of turning the idea around in my mind of, what if the Seekers asked one question, the first card pull was a time trap, and the hider put the time trap at their station? Like, would that... Because in my mind, I'm like, well, that would be the circumstance in which the time trap could accumulate the most time bonus, which is a question I'll get to in a second. But I also feel like in that case, maybe where my mind goes is that the Seekers would say, well, we haven't even started to narrow down the map. The hider doesn't have any intel into what we're thinking. I feel like it's more likely that the hider might put the time trap near them. Versus, I think here, the Seekers didn't even really fully understand Sam's strategy, but I think he did a really good thing of, like, he was tracking what the Seekers were ruling out, and he put his time trap somewhere they had already eliminated, knowing that he had this plan to send them there anyway, which I think was really effective. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, it feels like there's just as much psychoanalysis on the hider side of what the Seekers are asking, because that will help determine where the time trap gets placed. But still, we haven't really seen that time trap being used in a way that is authentic to the actual hiding zone. Like we've all kind of been alluding to, I do think that Sam's use of the time trap here is pretty much as good of a strategy as he could have planned. He tricks the Seekers, then uses a curse to send them right to the time trap and collects the reward. But even played optimally, the time trap itself is still only worth 20 minutes here. Do you think that there was an even better use of the time trap, either in this round or in a hypothetical round? Is there a circumstance where you could see the time trap really accruing a game-changing amount of time bonus? Or is it a nice to have, but not really as powerful as we first thought?
I think the best thing for Sam is still playing it as he did, based on when he drew the time trap and when he felt certain enough that they were going to hit it. But I do think that he could have played it earlier. Pretty much as soon as they went through Peterborough, he knew that they were going all the way down to London before heading towards him. He knew what direction they were going to be coming at him from. And so I think he could have just placed the time trap like maybe 20, 30 minutes earlier and accrued another 10 minutes. But I think the only circumstances where you're going to be accruing like a game-changing amount of time bonus are going to be the ones where you play really high risk, high reward of putting it near you and the Seekers don't figure out where you are, or putting it somewhere that you're like, they probably won't go here, but if they do, it's going to take them forever, and then they happen to go there.
I sort of disagree. I feel like because the time trap only accumulates 10 minutes per hour that it's left there, I mean, I guess 30 minutes is significant, and when the hider pulls a card of a 30-minute time bonus, they're always really excited about it, but it is only 30 minutes. And so we saw that Sam was 2.5 hours behind Adam's winning time right now. So even another 10 or 20 or 30 minutes wasn't going to do it for him. I feel like pretty much the only game-changing use of a time trap would be sending the seekers in the totally wrong direction, because then mostly you're not just accumulating 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you're accumulating the amount of time it takes the seekers to go off on a wild goose chase and come back. Which is now making me wonder whether, like, if the hider is given the choice between a time trap and a 20-minute bonus, I wonder whether the 20-minute bonus would be better, because on average, probably time traps, I mean, I guess it depends on whether you think you're going to get 2 hours worth of time. But also I'm thinking about a time trap versus a kind of middling curse. I know they talk a lot about what amount of time are you hoping to get based on a curse. So if you're trying to decide between Curse of the Gambler's Feet and a 15-minute curse, how long do you actually think Curse of the Gambler's Feet is going to get you? And so similarly, if we're going to do that weighing, do that sort of mental calculus, I wonder what it would be like if you were weighing a time trap against a kind of middle of the pack curse.
Well, and I think that the one additional point I would make to that, Kira, is that I have seen people kind of talking about whether a time trap would be less effective than having a few, like 5 or 10 minute bonuses in your hand. And the one benefit that I do see with the time trap, obviously there's so much strategy involved with placing it and around whether the seekers even go there, much less how much time bonus you get, but that's not in your hand. It's played out on the map, and you don't have to be keeping it in your hand like you do when you're accruing time bonuses or even curses.
That's a good point.
And curses have casting costs. And so I do see that a time trap there is kind of useful because you get it. It doesn't cost anything to place, and you could have it out of your hand and make room for other curses or time bonuses. It's just then a matter of, well, okay, how much time bonus can you actually get out of it?
That's a great point, Casey, because in these long runs, even here where Sam expanded his hand size by 1 pretty early in the round, he still was coming up against nearly the maximum hand size with his cards. And so having something that can be out of your hand and maybe accumulate some amount of time, I think is still good to have on the board.
Absolutely. Well, I am still hoping that we see some more time trap shenanigans in the rest of the season. But with that, I'll pass things over to Kira.
Thanks, Casey. Welcome back to the Detour, a segment where we propose alternate paths that the teams could have taken, detours if you will, and discuss our thoughts on what might have happened. There were a handful of what-if questions and curses in this episode that felt like make-or-break moments. What if Sam had fully blurred the photo of the tallest building? What if Ben and Adam hadn't been in a city with lethargic pigeons?
No.
But at the end of his run, the card that Sam put the most weight on was the Curse of the 5-Minute King, which let him take all of the 5-minute time bonuses out of the deck. The curse was designed so that the hider should only pull other more powerful curses or longer time bonuses instead of getting bogged down in the 5-minute time bonuses that really don't matter at the end of a run. But it also meant that it was harder for Sam to accumulate 15 minutes worth of time bonuses to discard as the casting cost to play the Curse of the Express Train. So what do you both think? What would have been the justification for not playing the Curse of the 5-Minute King? And if Sam had never played it, how do you think the rest of his run might have gone?
Well, as this podcast's resident Sam fan, I would like to begin by addressing the second question, because I want to paint for you a beautiful alternate universe in which Sam had accumulated, I'm going to say, 30 minutes of time bonuses, whether that was with 5-minute bonuses or just other card draws. And I think that getting maybe 30 minutes with only 5-minute bonuses was maybe a stretch, but we're already in imaginary land, so let's imagine. And then he would have been able to duplicate the Curse of the Express Train and send them right back to London on their way back from Coventry. I think that there is
Whoa.
a real argument to be made that would have won him the round. I think that he already kind of extended his run by a good amount just by using the Curse of the Express train once. And then we see that on their way back, their train is delayed, their train is moving slowly. I think that if he had sent them back past the Milton Keynes stop again, first of all, Adam's frustration alone would have been so entertaining. But I do think that really would have accumulated quite a lot of time, because my understanding is that train was already delayed, moving slowly. It was at least another hour back to London. And then they would have had to figure out what the next train back up the line would be. And then I think that Sam might have even been able to use some of that time to really pinpoint the absolute perfect hiding spot within his zone. I think he did a pretty good job, but I don't know, maybe there was even a better spot, and he would have been very well positioned for the end game. So much so that I don't think his blurring or lack of blurring in the photo of the tallest building from the train station would have really impacted his hiding time. Although I will say, also in this imaginary world, if he had blurred it appropriately, I don't think Ben and Adam would have been motivated to try to search out. And so then they would have had all of those different lines to explore. And then maybe Sam could have used the express train again on one of those lines instead of... So there's so many possibilities. That's my take for if Sam had magically accumulated enough time bonuses to play those cards without taking the 5-minute bonuses out of the deck.
Wow. Casey, I wasn't even thinking about what else his duplicate could have been used for. Duplicating Curse of the Express route on this map in this location would have been so funny.
I know. It would have been evil, and that's my...
It would have been incredibly powerful. That is really, really... that's a powerful move.
And I think that's my prediction for why it took him so long to realize that he could duplicate the 10-minute bonus. Because that was like the most stressful stretch of jet lag for me.
God.
I was
yelling at him.
I was yelling at the TV. I was so stressed out. But I think it's because in his mind, he was thinking, well, how I want to duplicate the Curse of the Express route. And not even thinking that he could use the duplicate on a time bonus. So
that makes all
my
of his
take.
anguish noises make even more sense. Because I was like, damn, brother is crashing out about having only one time bonus. Like, is he good?
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to argue for him doing it right, or maybe it making it worse. But I literally can't think of one because that was such a good argument.
Well, here's something that I was thinking about, which is it would be really hard for Sam to anticipate needing to keep 5-minute bonuses. So my sort of thought is that it may not have changed all that much, because let's say he didn't play Curse of the 5-Minute King, then there would still be a lot of 5-minute bonuses left in the deck. Every time he pulls a 5-minute bonus, if he's given the choice, probably he would take a different time bonus or a curse. I feel like most curses are worth more than 5 minutes. And so likely, this is actually putting him in a pretty similar position. It might be giving him less choice for picking between two good curses. It might just be sticking him with whatever curse he pulls in addition to the 5-minute bonus. But what I worry is that he still wouldn't be prioritizing a time bonus. And so he might still get to the end and say, well, shoot, I wish I had been picking up this sort of like small change so that I could pay for things later, but I was prioritizing these other curses.
Kira, I would push back on that a little bit because he drew the express route card so early in the round.
Yeah.
But we did see that he drew the express route card early in the round and he wasn't prioritizing time bonuses in order to be able to cast it once, if not twice. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, first of all, one of the card types that I think we're kind of overlooking here also is the power-ups. And I do think that by removing all of the 5-minute time bonuses from the deck, it is a lot more likely, and I think we saw this in the episode, that, we saw him draw a few different kinds of power-ups that would allow him to essentially get more good cards. And I think we definitely saw him draw more of those than you could anticipate on a typical round because he was no longer drawing those 5-minute time bonuses. I also think, I know that I am really being a Sam defender. He did not play a perfect round. That Santander Bank did screw him in the end, I think. But I think he played pretty close to perfectly in a lot of the strategy, especially around the medium game. But because he gave them that information with the unblurred photo and the Seekers pretty much jumped over that medium to end game step of narrowing down the stations, one of the consequences of that is they had multiple lines, hundreds of stations, and they didn't ask any more questions to narrow down that final station, and then he didn't draw additional cards. And so I think there's also an argument here that maybe he didn't misplay doing the curse of the 5-minute king. But if the Seekers had not immediately narrowed down the station to Milton Keynes and had to ask, I would say, even 2 to 3 more questions, I think it's really likely that in those 2 to 3 card pulls,
he would have gotten more. He would have gotten express route.
More time bonuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good argument.
Well, with that, I will pass things over to Jaya for a game.
Thanks, Kira. Welcome to Bird Quiz. So a few months ago, I went to trivia at my local brewery, and they did a really weird round about birds that inspired me today.
Yes.
Because today, we're going to do a classic 10-point pub quiz about birds that live in cities, and mostly about their movement. You guys will work together on this because it would be boring if you did all your thinking in your head. So question 1. The bird that Ben and Adam ended up filming for this challenge, the pigeon, is pretty much ubiquitous in cities nearly globally. If this pigeon had flown away, it might have gotten out of frame pretty quickly. How fast can pigeons fly?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. So when I was in grad school in Glasgow, one of my classmates had like an on-again, off-again boyfriend. And his side gig, his side hustle, was that he would kidnap pigeons that were in pigeon races across Europe, and he would hold them for ransom.
What are you talking about?
This was real. So I think it's a maybe wealthy people sport. They have pigeon races because pigeons have really good senses of direction. And so there would be different teams that would be sponsored, and there would be a lot of betting on the bird that won.
Whoa, sports betting on pigeons is crazy.
And so this guy would kidnap the pigeons because they would have to, it was a multi-day race. So they would have to stop somewhere to roost. And I think that the routes would be predetermined. And so this guy would go kidnap pigeons and hold them for ransom so that the teams would pay the ransom to get the pigeons back in the race.
That is so funny.
Whoa.
This classmate of mine did continue to date him after this, which is crazy to me, but that's beside the point.
No, I love that for them.
But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I feel like that gives a good timeline of let's say the race is across Europe, across multiple countries over a week or 2 weeks. That is pretty fast, I think, for a pigeon.
But is pretty fast 15 miles an hour? I'm trying to picture a bird driving next to a car.
Driving?
Don't let the pigeon drive the bus, Kira. Come on.
I'm trying to picture a pigeon flying next to a car that's driving.
I know what you meant, but a pigeon driving next to a car is really funny.
I mean, I feel 15 miles an hour feels slow for a pigeon.
But it's not 60 miles an hour.
No, I don't think it's 60 miles an hour. I want to say 30 miles
I was going to say 40. Do you want to say 35?
35, yeah.
I'm not going to tell you the answers until the end of the round.
That's so evil, Jaya.
This is trivia. Question 2. Imagine, if you will, Brian McManus in Battle for America, or any ad on TV that's America, woohoo, yeehaw, yippee.
Yes.
They show a picture of a bald eagle.
Yes.
You then hear the sound of a bald eagle screeching in the distance.
Caw.
Except that sound isn't actually a bald eagle. Which bird's cry is commonly used instead of the bald eagle's?
I am like 90% sure that I'm going to be correct on this, and I'm already feeling the dangerous hubris of pub trivia.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, because I knew it was not an eagle. And I'm thinking, this is so stupid, but I recently saw, I'm like getting into birding, and I recently saw an Instagram reel that like had this as a joke. And I think it's a red-tailed hawk.
I also think it's a red-tailed hawk based on the Instagram reel that you showed me.
Have I showed it to you?
I'm allergic to social media and only consume my media as Casey spoon feeds
because
to
it was like about what bird calls they use in movies that like don't make sense.
Question 3. Probably the worst kind of bird to use for this challenge, at least that I can think of, is a hummingbird. They'd suck for this challenge because they have to keep moving all day in order to get the energy that they need. How often do hummingbirds have to eat?
Whoa. I only ever see them eating.
Yeah.
They do. I know their heartbeat is really fast. And I also know they're always flying.
And instead of sleeping, they kind of go into hibernation every night. Or it's like pretty close to hibernation.
So are we thinking on the hours magnitude or the minutes magnitude?
I think hours over the course of a day.
So you think like they need to eat once an hour? Or something like that. Or once every 5 hours versus once every 20 minutes.
Oh, I thought it was saying, like, they eat for 8 hours.
No, I think...
No, Casey is right.
Yeah, like, how often do they need to eat to, like, for their metabolism to support their...
I bet it's, like, every 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say that as well.
A bird that I think would do okay in a city in this challenge, but maybe not fantastic, is a herring gull. These are commonly what's being observed when someone says a seagull. Huh. And we all know that they love being in cities foraging for food. But they have also been observed using tools for fishing. What tools were they using?
Whoa.
I have a hunch. I mean, it all kind of comes down to how do you define a tool? Like, are they literally using human tools for fishing?
Like picking up human stuff?
Or are they using a rock, a pebble that they're dropping in the water to scatter the fish and make them come to the surface?
That rings a bell. I would be willing to say dropping rocks as a tool.
I think we could go rock or pebble.
Yeah.
Or shell or driftwood.
Right.
Anything in that kind of vein.
Yeah. Question 5. Now, I just think it's really fun to imagine birds being in the Iron or Stone Age, so I have another tool question. When you think of birds that you could find pretty commonly in a city for this challenge, you might have also thought of the crow. Crows are incredibly smart and have been known to use a variety of methods and tools to make their daily life easier. What did they use cars as a tool for?
Opening seeds.
What?
What? I actually do know this one. Well, now I might be wrong, which it'll be embarrassing.
I love crows. Crows are my favorite birds, but I have not heard this.
Where I think crows will take seeds that are in shells, and they know that a stoplight, when the light is red, the cars will stop. And so they put seeds in front of car wheels and then fly a little bit away. And then the light turns green. The cars drive over the seeds, or like the nuts or whatever. Like whatever food they want to eat that's in the hard shell, and they come back and it's cracked for them.
Oh my god, I hope that's true. Crows are so smart and beautiful, and I do like that you could kind of train them, you know?
They're crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with that as our guess.
Excellent. Question 6, and your final question, because this one requires a list. Sam started off the Curse of the Bird Guide by filming a swan. Part of why this was so easy was likely because swans are some of the biggest waterfowl, so it was pretty hard for it to disappear into the distance. Indeed, the North American counterpart to his filmed bird, the trumpeter swan, is the biggest waterfowl and the 12th largest extant bird species. So for your last 5 points, name 5 of the top 15 largest birds.
I'm immediately thinking ostrich, emu.
Flamingo.
Okay,
ostrich, emu, flamingo. Dodos are extinct.
I was gonna say like a Canada goose, like some kind of goose.
No. What about like a condor? or an owl. Don't you think those would be bigger than a goose?
I guess wingspan, yeah.
I'm gonna say this is a list by weight.
Weight.
Because by weight, a goose is big.
But what about like a big penguin? Like an emperor penguin? Is that a kind of penguin?
I'd be happy to say emperor penguin.
I feel like those are pretty big. I feel like we're missing one of the other like big, like, I'm thinking like Australian birds. Like, is there like a ossuary? What? Cassowary?
A cassowary?
Is that a bird?
I think so.
Is that an alive bird or an extinct bird?
I'll say alive. Let's say it. So we're saying ostrich, emu, emperor penguin, flamingo, cassowary.
Well, let's just briefly think if there are any other huge birds. I think a condor could be up there.
But I think the birds that are flying have hollow bones. So they're not going to be, they're going to be light. They're not going to be heavy.
Extremely astute, Karen.
That really is. Are there any other flightless birds?
Well, so I think you do have a point with penguin. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't want to put this on our list, but I do want to ask Jaya after whether there is a goose, because I bet there's a goose.
I mean,
in the top 15.
Geese can definitely get big, but swans are bigger than geese.
Oh, really?
Yes. A swan is big.
Are all swans bigger than all geese?
Well, I don't want to generalize here, but like the swan that Sam took a video of is bigger than a Canada goose.
It's a big ass
well, then maybe
bird.
not a Canada goose. I bet there's a big goose somewhere.
But I just can't think of one. I'm just kind of thinking about an owl.
I think, again, flying birds are going to be lighter, even if they're physically big.
But they have all those feathers, man.
Feathers are notoriously light.
Okay, so...
And also, think, we can... Like, a child might not be able to hold a humongous owl on their arm, but a person, like an adult person, can relatively easily... Like, a falconer can hold a falcon.
Yeah, but you could probably hold a swan if it let you.
I don't think I could I don't think I could.
You don't think you can hold a swan? They're not that big.
I think that they're physically gigantic.
Okay, I think that we're going to settle on... What did we say? So we said...
Ostrich, emu, flamingo, cassowary, emperor penguin.
Excellent. So with your answers locked in, I will come take your little trivia slip and I will grade it at the table while playing some music. So a round has ended, and let's go back through the question. Question 1, how fast can a pigeon fly? Your answer was 35 miles an hour. The real answer, which you said, there is no way they go this fast, is 50 to 60 miles per hour.
Wow! That's impressive.
Apparently they can reach over 90 at very short distances, which is crazy. In kilometers per hour, that is 80 to 96 kilometers per hour.
Oh my god.
For you European freaks out there. Question 2. Which bird's cry is commonly used instead of a bald eagle? You are correct.
Yes!
That is the red-tailed hawk.
Oh, thank God.
Question 3. How often do hummingbirds eat? You said every 20 minutes, and I'm going to give it to you because it's every 10 to 15 minutes.
I feel good about that.
That's pretty good. And that is crazy. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Question 4. What tools are herring gulls using to fish? They're using breadcrumbs. They steal bread from people, drop them in the water. The fish come up to eat the bread, they eat the fish.
Actually awesome.
That's really smart. Good for them.
Isn't that sick?
Birds are awesome.
Question 5. What do crows use cars as a tool for? Some crows, not all crows. You said opening nuts and seeds, and you are correct, Kira.
Yay!
You described it perfectly. They put them in front of cars at a red light, and they wait for the light to turn green.
That is so epic.
Crows are
Isn't
so
that sick?
cool.
That's awesome.
And finally, name 5 of the top 15 largest birds by weight. You said ostrich, emu, flamingo, emperor penguin, and cassowary. And while the actual species are more specific, I will give you most of these.
Okay.
The top 15 birds by weight are the Barbary ostrich at 229 pounds.
Oh my
or
God.
104 kilograms.
That's unreal.
That's crazy.
That's like a,
Right?
That's like a guy. That's a human guy.
Right?
Yeah.
Second, the Somali ostrich. Then the southern cassowary and the northern cassowary at about 100 pounds or 45 kilograms.
Nice.
Next, the emu. 6th is the emperor penguin.
Oh, nice!
Then the greater rhea, the dwarf cassowary, the lesser rhea, the king penguin, and the first flying bird of this list, the wild turkey.
Whoa.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about turkeys.
They're huge.
Another city bird that I considered writing a question about.
Yeah.
In 12th place, we have the aforementioned trumpeter swan. Then 13th is the wandering albatross, then the mute swan, and the Dalmatian pelican. So out of those, I will give you 4 out of 5 of the points for ostrich, emu, emperor penguin, and cassowary.
Very nice.
Feeling good about that.
Wait, which? Oh, flamingo?
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
so
I guess flamingos are so spindly.
yeah, their legs.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
They're very spindly. Their bodies aren't huge. They're just in really big flocks.
That's a good point.
Well, you guys have earned 7 out of 10 points
Nice!
of my bird quiz, which is pretty good. So congratulations, and let's move into our rosebud and thorn. Casey, do you want to get us started?
Sure. My rose is, I really do think this was perhaps the most Sam round of all time. We have him
Yeah.
in an unaesthetic location that I actually really enjoyed. I felt like there were a lot of cool facts and history and like a really nice pond. I was not underwhelmed by his choice of location. Like, I think maybe the producer brain that Adam and Ben had were. But then we also had his ambitious strategy, a really strong kind of beginning and middle stretch, and then, of course, a lot of bad luck. But I really enjoyed it. My thorn, as I've already kind of touched on, my thorn is that I have never been more stressed in a jet lag episode than I was when Sam was not duplicating his 10-minute time bonus to play his curse.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I truly was. I was yelling at the TV. I was panicking. I was sweating. My heart rate skyrocketed. I really felt like a drunk frat bro when his football team is losing, which is a feeling that is very unfamiliar to me, and I did not enjoy it. Very horrible. Would not recommend.
Heard.
And my bud is that as we go into the second half of the game, I'm still holding out hope that someone hides in Wales or Scotland, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Kira, what about you?
My rose has got to be Sam's use of the time trap. I thought that the way he was really subtle about it, putting it in rugby in a place that wasn't even in play, and then cutting back to Ben and Adam, who clearly thought that it was a mistake, but then seeing it ultimately come back to work exactly the way Sam wanted it to. I thought it was so sleek and honestly very strategic on his part. My thorn is that I was bummed that Sam didn't scrub his photo of the tallest building. And I don't think it was that big of a deal. I don't think that it really was make or break. I think Ben and Adam had other ways of narrowing in on his station pretty quickly. And also, I know that Sam just didn't have time to scrub his photo because he had to spend so much of his 20-minute, like, allotted time to take his photo just standing there continuing to film the swan. And then he had to sprint across town. So, like, the whole thing seemed so stressful. But because of the stress of it, I was really bummed that he was, like, frazzled and rushing. And my bud is I'm also so curious and hopeful that we might see another country this season.
Absolutely. My rose is Sam's just masterful use of his cards. I absolutely loved how he played the time trap and then the express fruit. It was so impressive and so funny. My thorn is that just a couple weeks ago, I saw a video about kissing gates that was saying you can always tell who's an American city slicker because they'll get tripped up by this kind of gate. And I was feeling so defensive about it, but then immediately in the episode, Ben got confused by a kissing gate, which is brutal for city slicker Americans. My bud is now that they're back near London, I can only hope it'll be possible to go really far in the next run, in that next 4 hours, and so maybe we'll see some of Wales.
Please.
And with that, thank you for waiting at Baggage Claim. Let us know your thoughts on socials at baggageclaimpod or over email, which is in the episode description. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a comment or give us a follow. We'll see you next week at the Knives Out Baggage Claim. If you're a good enough detective, they'll give you a knife once you get through security. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. At this moment, I just read Casey's joke about Sam expanding his hand size, and I'm worried this is going to go really poorly for me now.
It was so funny to
hands
see
grew size that day.
Just see it crossed off.
Out of context, the sentence in response to Sam expands his hand size is so funny.